Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm James and today we're going to be showing you how I painted the Tarrasque. Such a big, beefy, chunky model. It's bigger than my head, which my missus will tell you is an accomplishment in itself. But yeah, absolutely lovely model, and this is how I got it to this standard. Nothing startling, just tabletop standard, but there you go. Let's get our paintbrushes out. So here we go, starting off with the first piece there. As you can see, I've left it in two sections, the main body and the stonework. And what I'm doing at the minute, I'm just going to give everything a coat of Basilicanum Grey. So the model itself was undercoated in black and dry brushed with Dawnstone. And then the stonework was dry brushed again with I think it was Corax White I used. But the main beast itself was actually dry brushed with Screaming Skull, just to give it a slightly lighter tone than the Corax White, a creamier tone, sorry, than the Corax White. What I'm doing now is moved on to Wildwood. I'm just painting in the wooden detail on the top of the base there. And then I'm going to give everything a nice dry brush. With this I'm going to be using Dawnstone. I think it's a lovely stone colour. I use it quite a lot. It's probably one of my favourite, my go-to. I'm going to be a lot of dry brushing in this tutorial because it's such a big beastie model that once you've got the base coat on, a lot of the work can be done just with a nice dry brush. Did this over a course of 3 evenings, so it's not a quick model to do at all. So now I used Admin Grey just to give it a second dry brush. Those slightly lighter edges, just to give it them 3 sort of shades of grey: the Basilicanum, the Dawnstone, and then the Admin. That's pretty much the base finished at this point. I think I actually covered the wooden part with a bit of the Admin Grey as well. So moving on to the main beast, just going to be using Flesh Tearer's Red. Now it's quite a dark red, so if you want it a slightly lighter, I would suggest Blood Angel's Red being a nice lighter tone. This Flesh Tearers does look like torn flesh. If you've ever seen the Hellraiser movies, then it's that sort of muscle colour, and maybe, you know, if it's raw muscle then fine, but this really was supposed to be flesh, so if I was to do it again, I would use Blood Angel's Red instead. But by this point I was already committed. So obviously there's a lot of flesh work to do. Just a case of, you know, being reasonably careful. You don't really want to get it anywhere else. But just be methodical, go through each piece bit of the section at a time. So as you can see, that's the Flesh Tearer's Red, and now what I'm doing is I'm going to give it a dry brush of Mephiston Red. This didn't really change it a great deal. I mean, it actually looks better on camera than it did in real life. It didn't really look like much difference had happened at all. And if you are going to miss out one of these dry brushing steps, then this would be the one to miss out. For me, it just didn't pay off as much as I thought it would have done. Not in real life, at least. It's quite difficult here not to get it on the stone parts of the model, but try best you can. So the second dry brush I used was Evil Sun Scarlet. This did seem to make more of a difference to the model, in my opinion, at least. Oh yeah, don't forget its toes on the base if you are going to paint it separately. You don't want to miss out a step with the toes, otherwise it's going to clash. See how with this one you can definitely see that it is definitely making a difference to the shading of the red. You could maybe just highlight the top parts of the models, the bits that you're going to see. A lot of the under the carriage is not going to be seen anyway, so concentrate mainly on the top and the areas that are going to be able to view. And this is the third dry brush to the skin, and for that I used, just remind myself what the name is, Wild Rider Red. This one's going to be much lighter, mainly focusing on shoulder and exposed parts. Anything that's going to catch the light, I'm going to get it with this Wild Rider Red. Slightly lighter dry brush, you know, you don't want to cover all the dry brushing we've done previously. They're all there to sort of complement each other. And this is the last dry brush I did on the flesh. Now, if you do want to pump it up, if you missed, let's say you missed the Mephiston Red out, but you still fancy doing 3 layers of dry brush, or indeed if you fancy doing another layer of dry brush, then I would definitely look at Fire Dragon Bright, and an extremely light dry brush of that in the right places would really make the skin pop. Now this part I'm moving on to the stone. And basically what I'm doing here, I'm just going to give everything a coat of Agrax Earthshade. And that's just to tint the colour to the specified sort of creamy sandstone type colour that I like to use a lot. We don't want to go grey because we've done grey on the base. Now you could alternate. You could do the sandstone on the base and then the grey on the beast's back. But that's entirely up to you. For me, I like the sandstone creamier colours, so that's why I'm focusing with that colour on the top. So it's just about being, again, methodical. There's lots of cracks and places to get this, and just make sure you go over the entire model. Now the first colour I used was Morghast Bone. I did a light dry brush over everything, a heavy dry brush over everything that I just coated in the Agrax Earthshade. Just to pick up all the edges, all the highlights. I think it makes a massive difference. You still want to leave some of those rock faces slightly darker, especially in the deeper recesses. But give everything a really good cover, a really good coat. So the second dry brush was with Yushati Bone. No, it wasn't, sorry, I apologise, it was Screaming Skull. Again, this is just a light catching mainly the tips and the areas that are going to be exposed to the sunlight the most, but also to create that sort of, it's worn in these sections. It is, sorry about the distance of the model. Sometimes it's quite hard to get it in shot because of how big it is. My current setup is really designed for much smaller miniatures than this. But for such a big miniature, it really took the dry brushing well. This is the thing I like about the Dungeons and Lasers models. They really do take well to dry brushing. They're really sculpted well. Now I used Rattling Grime here on the nails. Again, didn't particularly want to go black because I think it would be too much of a contrast against the grey. But the Rattling Grime, that gives it that sort of horrible, dirty, greeny, browny sort of colour, which works well with the stonework on the actual beast itself. Now here I'm just painting the tongue. I did that in Volupus Pink. It's quite tricky to get on camera, but I did my best. I mean, you could go in and highlight this, but all I actually did was just coat it in the Volupus pink and let the undercoat do its work, really. So the next stage, I think I painted his eye at this point, and for that I used Wild Rider. No, I didn't. I used Fire Dragon Bright. Oh no, I'm picking out the teeth. Here we go. So just using Wraithbone here, just to pick out his teeth, make them stand out against the stone, because at this point they're a very similar sort of colour, and it's hard to differentiate. But yeah, just picking out the teeth now in the Wraithbone. And now I'm moving on to the eye, and like I say, I used Fire Dragon Bright just to colour in his pupil. No, colour in his the whites of his eye, should we say. Because the model is so big, it's pretty easy to do the eye. And then in the end, I just did a nice little black stripe, just to give it that sort of serpent look in its eye. And that's about it. Please like and subscribe and follow for more.